Hello, everyone, and welcome to Overtime. Since Vox will not be able to be with us, let me quickly correct that. And there we are. All right. All right. So thank you for joining us. We have just a few things that we decided were worth covering. Some of them reasonably significant, and then we'll see if we can get to any questions or comments, and then go on from there. I'm sorry, now we are having one or two technical issues. Let me get this solved. Perfect. All right. So the Wall Street Journal has reported that Donald Trump, during his final weeks in office, attempted to replace his acting attorney general, attempted to replace acting Attorney General Rosen with a Trump ally, Jeffrey Clark. Clark was seen as more willing to contest the election results, particularly in Georgia, and was willing to file on behalf of the U.S. government to have the election overturned. Once it was learned that this was going to be his plan, top Department of Justice officials universally agreed that they would all resign in protest if he attempted to go forward. Apparently, it is only that threat that gave him pause, and in the end, he decided not to. The Patriot Party has filed documentation with the Federal Election Commission. However, and this is an important caveat, they are not a party. What they have actually signed is to attempt to create a political action committee by the name of the Patriot Party. This is important for any number of reasons. First of all, they will be able to fundraise, and they will be able to spend that money by giving it to candidates and giving it towards other individuals, almost in any way they choose, as opposed to an actual party, which would be limited towards funding their candidate per se, but not giving the money, say, to Donald J. Trump. The Political Action Committee is ostensibly in the name of his organization. So if he wanted to, he could keep all the money that comes in. He can send that money to other candidates that aren't in that party or aren't affiliated with that party. He'll be able to do basically whatever he wants with it. So that's a reasonably important distinction. As a political action committee, it is a fundraising organization as opposed to an actual political party. A 59-year-old woman went into, she was returning, I believe, from England and entering New Zealand, as is required. When entering New Zealand, she took a COVID test and tested negative. Also in New Zealand, they require isolation, which is actually mandated by the state and is managed by the state, meaning that the government of New Zealand ensures that it's not self-isolation. They are isolating you in quarantine. After 2 weeks in quarantine, she received another COVID test and tested negative again. 2 days later, she was then released, and 2 days later, she started to show symptoms of COVID, pretty significant symptoms. On the third day, they got very serious. She was tested again and tested positive. What this suggests is one of two things happened. Either somehow she got COVID in quarantine, since it is state managed, and she wasn't, it's possible. They've started looking into that. What appears to be more likely is that she had the new variant, the more virulent variant. Wow, I'm not going to try to say that again. And that the incubation period is longer than the original one, and she was able to have it for 2 weeks undetected. This would, if true, mean that the new variant is going to pose other significant challenges aside from the fact that it demonstrates at least a 50% resistance to the vaccine or people who've had recent COVID infections. This is also highlights one of the most critical things about managing that we haven't talked about. We've talked about masks. We've talked about why it's important to try to manage this as quickly as possible. One of the things we haven't mentioned is one of the reasons to attempt to manage this as aggressively as possible is because of variants. The more copies of the virus you have out there, the greater the chance that one of them is going to mutate and create something brand new, something nobody's seen before. If only a few people have COVID, the chances of a mutation are extraordinarily slim. If hundreds of millions of people get COVID, the chances of a new mutation go up dramatically, and in fact, you may end up with 2 or 3 viable new mutations. That appears to be what's happened now with the African mutation and with the British mutation. The African one, I believe, has a 90% or greater resistance to our current treatment methods. This is why any attempt at herd immunity as a means of managing this was utterly foolhardy and insane. And I think this country is probably going to need to undergo some greater measures now, and not only to try to roll back the mass number of infections which are causing mutations, but now to deal with these mutations which are stronger than the original virus. The management of this has been just an utter catastrophe, and we've talked about this on this show before. We've known for a long time how to deal with viruses. 100 years ago, what I'm still going to call a Spanish flu, despite genuine objections and probably reasonable ones. About 100 years ago, the Spanish flu ravaged this country, and back then we knew that isolation worked. We knew that masks worked, and you can see pictures of kids at school wearing their masks. We knew how to deal with it then. This isn't brand spanking fucking new. This isn't rocket science. This has been around for a while. We know how to deal with this, but we'll maybe get into that in a little bit. Meanwhile, an entire hospital in Germany has now had to be quarantined. The entire hospital, after 20 patients and staff turned up positive for the new variant of COVID. The hospital is not accepting any new patients. Nobody can go in or out of the hospital, but the hospital appears to be still functioning as a hospital, meaning that the people who are in there at least have been quarantined inside a hospital. So Angela Merkel was quoted as saying that people should be more patient for the vaccine, and that given the prevalence of the new variant and just how serious it is, and the fact that they have now had to quarantine an entire hospital, suggests that their measures will have to be significantly increased. We know now, too, we've learned a little bit more about some of the people who have been in the Capitol Hill riots. One of the things that we've learned is that the FBI has been aggressively identifying the people involved, but they've been a little less aggressive with while they haven't yet decided on a strategy. Are they going to prosecute absolutely everybody who was involved? Are they only going to prosecute the violent ones? And working in conjunction with the Attorney General, they've been trying to figure out what is the most effective strategy for going after this. We've now learned that it looks like what they're going to settle on, at least the direction they're headed in right now, is anybody who did not engage in any violence whatsoever may be released without charges. And the people who have engaged in violence and or appear to be threatening it in some way or another will be charged and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So that appears to be what they're settling on right now. One of the biggies is the man who was called Garbage Tie Man, or Zip Tie Man. He was the one who had about 20 zip ties, had his phone on his chest outwards so that he could document things. And he went with his mother, because if you're going to commit insurrection, it should really be a family thing, I guess. And he and his mother both went. They have both been identified. They have been found and charged. He is facing 20 years. And at one point, it looks like a lower court said that he could be released on his own recognizance with a monitoring anklet. And that has now been overturned by another judge who said, no, given the severity of the crime. Very much like one of the original founding fathers. He was out to start a revolution in this country, and he thought that he was basically starting a new country, and his name would go down with Jefferson, Adams, Washington, all those others. That's who he considered himself to be. So he is looking at 20 years right now. And while there's been no decision made on how aggressively they're going to be pursued, it looks like he's going to be among those who are aggressively pursued. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait 1 minute, and I'm just going to talk to the live chat a little bit, or see what's going on in the live chat, and then we're going to do the Tacoma, Washington thing. That is going to be graphic, so we'll give everybody a moment to consider whether or not they're going to want to watch this. And it's not as bad as, unfortunately, some of the stuff we have aired, but it's worth noting that it's reasonably graphic. It's not. When we covered the riots, we had people shot on our air, so it's not that bad, but it's still something that I want to give everyone a minute to consider before we go on to that one. All right. So yeah, the zip tie guy really is disgusting. There was a lot of footage of him carrying guns, and he was not a particularly pleasant individual from what I could tell. And probably I will say this: there is a question as to who would commit murder or insurrection or do anything like that in the first place. And in general, you're not necessarily talking the sanest of people in the first place. In order to commit any number of crimes, you probably have to be reasonably mentally unstable. That's one reason why insanity in the law is something somewhat different than what a psychologist might refer to. Yeah, I noticed Ocean's going again, isn't he? I'm gonna have to have a talk with him. I'm really gonna have to have a talk with him. So at any rate, this is gonna be a reasonably short show, I think. But at any rate, that's why insanity is different in the legal system than it might otherwise be, because the assumption is, for some crimes, you kind of have to be mentally unstable or insane anyway to want to commit them. The question is, are you capable of understanding the consequences of your actions? That's usually how insanity is measured. This guy does not strike me as particularly stable. He really thought he was a founding father. If he gets 20 in Leavenworth, or, well, it wouldn't be Leavenworth, I suppose, but whatever the max facility is in Washington or in Rikers Island, he may get disabused of that. But it's one of those. The guy detests me. I find him detesting, and I do want to see him punished. On the flip side, the other thing is you have to realize people who are that disconnected from reality just wish there was a way to help them, I suppose. All right, moving forward. All right. So that's it. COVID appears to, unfortunately, the new variants do appear to be taking hold. They've gotten hold in Africa, Germany, England, and it looks like Brazil. So they're spreading. Biden is taking it seriously and is locking down our access from our people's access from those countries. But we're gonna see some. It's gonna happen. So it's a question of, can we get the vaccine out, and are any of the other vaccines that are coming in? We covered the 6 now that are either out or are expected to be out. We'll cover them again at some other point. But the question is, will any of them have any greater efficacy? The chances are reasonably slim. But some of these things, you can, depending on how it doesn't matter. My hope is that we can make some progress there. So moving forward, the last thing that I wanted to cover was one of the hold on. And last night in Tacoma, Washington, there was the usual number of protests, and the protests started actually. And what drove the cops to come in to the protest was a, let's see here. The cops were called because of this that you're going to see here. This is drag racing on just public streets in Tacoma, Washington. Let's check this out. All right, so shortly after this, the police showed up, as you can see here. And now what happened next is, well, what happened next, we have footage of, and was actually, I'm gonna make that a little bit larger so everyone can see it. Oh, I closed that out. So nope, you're gonna be stuck with the footage here. I think, unless actually, well, wait a minute, there we go. All right, so let's take a look at this. What you're going to see here is graphic. It is a police car. It is going to, it gets surrounded by people. It starts to back up slowly, and then something happens. It looks like he decided he was going to try to go forward, and then either he was trying to hit the brake and hit the gas instead, or maybe he plowed into them on purpose. I don't know, but it's impossible to tell. But you're going to see a police car back up and then plow into the crowd.
What's going on? I'm dead. They're hitting the cop car. I'm dead. They're hitting the cop car. I'm dead. Oh my God! 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 Oh my fucking God!
All right, and this is actually, this one is not close up, but you will be able to see a bit better here. So let's, I'm gonna show this one, and let's.
Uh-oh! Uh-oh! Oh my God! Hit those people! Oh my God! Oh shit! Oh! Oh my God! Fuck! Holy fuck! Oh my God! Fuck! What? Holy shit! Fuck you, bitch! Holy shit!
So what you can see there is the car backs up about 10, maybe 15 yards, and then forward and hits the gas. Sinister porpoise. That the officer could reasonably feel threatened for his life, and I think that's worth noting too. Is that from the video we showed just prior to this, it looks like somebody was suggesting that they were climbing into the vehicle. So I don't know if the window was down and they were starting to climb in. If they were, I might panic as well. So that's why I said we don't know. I mean, it does. He hits the gas very suddenly, then he brakes, then he hits the gas suddenly again, then he drives away, which is the fight or flight response. If you've done something, if you've done something terrible, you know, you have a tendency to. So We don't know what happened. It's obviously a shocking video, but we're gonna, if as we learn more, we're gonna bring it to you. Obviously, that's probably not the biggest and most important thing going on, but a few hours after this, obviously the protests outside of the Tacoma, Washington Police Department grew significantly. Right now, given so much news being out there, especially with COVID, with a new presidency. If this had happened last summer, this would be a huge thing, and we would see protests and riots grow from where they are now, which is credibly in about between 5 and 10 states and locations, to almost across all 50 states. That is probably less likely to happen here, I think, but we're gonna keep an eye on it. At any rate, it's yeah, I think they're going to investigate. It's probably not wise to speculate other than to say that there's obviously any number of possibilities. I've seen sociopaths on police forces. It does happen. I don't think that's what happened here. So barring that, some kind of mistake. What and how, we don't know. But that's it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put this up. I think that's a really good idea. Is that not judge based just on the dramatic nature of what happened. I'd like to point out too, we have a tendency to judge people based on consequences, not on the initial actions. And the problem is you can't always predict consequences. Some of the worst consequences I've ever seen are from the smallest mistakes, a tiny mistake. And the example I like to give is when they first put the lunar lander, full weight of the lunar lander. They were just testing it to see if it could stand on its own. And they put the lunar lander on the ground from a crane. And all of a sudden, one of the feet broke off and it crashed and did hundreds of millions of dollars worth of damage. What happened? Turned out one of the engineers had forgot to convert inches into centimeters. And that little tiny conversion cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, he thought he'd get fired. And NASA was just like, no, that's a common mistake. People do that all the time. It's not the consequences that in this particular case, if he had done a huge catastrophic mistake that led to that, that would be one thing. If he did just it's common, So I don't know if he was panicked. Again, I don't think it was deliberate. Hey, let's go kill us some Black Lives Matter guys. I don't think it was that, but we'll see. We'll find out. Okay, Jake 4D checked on the person to make sure they were okay. TPD also apologized and said that they hope everyone is okay and there will be an independent investigation. Yeah, a lot of the a couple of the footage has been taken down. Some of the different videos have been taken down. That's why we try to, as soon as we see them, just snag them and then save them. And then sometimes we use them, sometimes we don't. But best to have them in case we choose to, because these things get taken down quickly. But yep, yeah. All right. Well, so that's it. I think we're gonna do a reasonably short show tonight. My hope is that the need for daily or twice weekly or even 3 or twice weekly rundowns is gonna be diminished, and we'll probably go back to our once a week schedule. But until then, we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, and then for the next rundown on Thursday. So hopefully Vox will be able to join us then. In the meantime, thank you all for joining us. Have a marvelous evening.